Hola community and welcome to another episode of Blender Today Live. The quiet is so quiet. The quiet after the... Before the storm, after the storm. There was a storm on Friday. Cycles X. If you're subscribed to the show, you've probably seen it. We did it here, a special episode about the new cycles for the 10 years to come. This was a success. The release was a success. Everybody is reporting at least twice as fast, sometimes less, sometimes depends on the scene. And there are many different reasons why sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's less than that. But it's pre-alpha. Yeah, like it's due for release in 3.1 for the first testing release in 3.1. And 3.0 is in alpha. So what is 3.1? Is it pre-alpha? Anyway, it's just so cool. Focus the camera. There you go. Let me... Oh, there you go. I'm just focusing it. I forgot. I don't trust the autofocus. It always thinks that... other stuff. Okay, cool. What else we have today? We have some geometry nodes, some user interface, Grease Pencil, not so much more actually. Developers have been pretty busy, and this week also is gonna be very quiet. It's not gonna see a lot of development because it's the bug fixing week. It's a week where developers focus. Usually they also focus on fixing bugs, but this one is like, okay, nothing else but bug fixing. It's like a sprint. Every developer that volunteers that can, and the people on the Blender team, on the core team, are only fixing Blender, making it cool. Let's go. Okay, the camera is too bright. Yeah, I know it's bright, but we should tell Sony to bring back the ND filter on their cameras on the RX100, the one I'm using at the moment. So let's just start. You already know this. You are familiar with this. Cycles X is out. Many comments that some of them are very heartwarming. It's like, oh, it's a whole new life. My hardware is back to life. I can now use it and I have to throw it away because it's not only for new graphics cards. Even older graphics cards are also benefiting from it, and CPU as well. There are improvements done to the open image denoiser that is CPU based, and that is way faster. You can find videos already. Actually, if you go for like Cycles X on YouTube, you're gonna find plenty of material going around. Today I saw this one by Sir Wade Neistat, super nice as well, and apparently it's gonna come with some benchmarks later on. The other video, this one is in Spanish. Actually, I have it here. It's just, well, if you know Spanish, it's even more fun. I'm gonna mute it because it's not in Spanish, but I like the in Spanish is funny because it's so excited. It's like, oh my crack. Like this is how it used to look. Have a look at how responsive or not responsive is. This is open image denoise CPU. This is all CPU, and as you can see, it's like a blur, and then you move around, you move the mouse, and it doesn't respond anymore. But just he starts the live stream here. Bone Studio starts the live stream just by showing this and just like freaking out. Actually, I'm covering the camera, but he's like, look at the detail over here and over there. And now when he moves the camera around, then it's super cool. So let's hear this. Look how responsive. Even like if it might take a while later to get the cameras right, at least when you move, it doesn't get stuck anymore. It's not stuck anymore. You can actually move and see even some more effect on the textures even before they get look at look, is it grabbing the head? It's like, that's so cool. It's super funny to see it. But yeah, look at that responsiveness compared to how it was previously, that you move the mouse and then nothing happens. That is crazy. So that is CPU. It's not all GPU. Cycles X has been rewritten from scratch, from the ground up, to be not only easier to develop for the next coming years, but also to improve speed, performance, scalability, to even be able to pause a render. Resumable rendering, it's a thing that it was planned for a while. There were some hacks on how to do it, so you can render the samples and then merge them together, but it wasn't the same. It's the future indeed. No hacks, pure code, actual development. So super nice to be able to share that kind of news. If you don't know exactly what it is, you can watch the Cycles X video announcement on this channel, or watch one of the many videos on Cycles X that are around YouTube. It's just super cool to see people engaged. The other, okay, let's start with the news of the day. This was just for Cycles. It's so exciting that it's only 2 months of development so far, and there's so much more to come. This is supposed to be a 6 to 8 month project, so there's still many things to work on. There are areas, entire sides of Blender or Cycles that are not implemented yet, like volumes or multi-GPU. All that you see, all the demos that you see, is using only one GPU. I even have some set up here in another computer that I'm trying. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it work, because this is running on a separate computer, and there's some delay because I didn't change the window. Like, I didn't change the screen for me, so I'm actually controlling it from. But maybe if this works, I can make it. Nah. There. Well, I don't know if I should even attempt, because I'm gonna break the stream just like I did before. There was an issue with the audio. I don't know what was happening. So let's get started with the user interface. The user interface. This one affects everyone. EVs, cyclers, looks renderers, any part of Blender, because this is a change to how you split or move around the windows, or like how to split the window. So up until now, there are 2 ways of splitting windows. One is via the corner, but the officially, like, if you're teaching Blender to someone that just started, maybe don't start by telling them, hey, click on the corner and then drag, because it's I don't know, I see that as a more of a, you know, pro user, because you gotta know what you're gonna do or what to expect. If you don't know what to expect, if you just started using Blender, then I think it's better to just tell people to use right click and then vertical or horizontal split. So that is that's better. Then you can press tab to switch. That was already there. This was already the case. But the new thing is, have you ever wanted to close a window, an area? How do you do it? Before, you have to, yeah, there was no way actually. I think you couldn't even click and join. No, I think it was, or yeah, maybe you could join, but that's it. Or you have to join from the corner. Now you can right click on the header, close area. This simple operation is gonna get rid of the editors that you don't want, that you don't need. There is no undo, by the way. This is a user interface operation, so usually they don't have an undo. They don't save an undo step. So yeah, make sure that you delete what you want to delete. What another thing I like is that when you drag these corners, you're gonna have a better preview. One area becomes lighter and the other one becomes darker. The one that is gonna disappear, that is gonna be merged with the other area, is darker. You can also escape. You can also join in directions that you couldn't before. So before you could only do like up and down, for example, from the outliner to the properties editor. Now you can say, okay, outliner, join it with the image, with the 3D viewport, and then you end up with this. You end up with a kind of splitting that it wasn't possible before, and that's actually awesome. Then, for example, do you want to bring it back? If I drag the 3D viewport up, look, it's gonna cut the editor above. Isn't that great? Like before, if you wanted to have the viewport again to occupy the entire part of the workspace, like before, you would have to like first have a split, and then you have to join this up. But no, now you can just drag it up, bam, it's gone, it's back. Then another one that I like is that you can actually now I don't know what's the name of it, but it's like chop. You can chop areas. How? For example, look, I have the outliner, then I have the properties editor. I can now drag this 3D viewport and or to horizontally to the properties editor, and then bam, it's gonna split it in two. So all these crazy combinations, you don't have to think so much anymore about like, okay, if I want this setup for this, before I will have to you'll have to think. It's like, okay, how do I do it? I grab this corner here and then I join them. So it was like twice the amount of steps. This is amazing. This is Pablo the great musician. No, I didn't do anything here. I'm just presenting the great work by Harley Exxon. So it's, yeah, it's just awesome. This patch has been around for a while, and Harley has been working on it for also like many iterations, and this, I think it's super great because it allows you to join in ways that you couldn't before. So cool, so cool. And this affects everyone. It is something that everyone benefits. Right click. You can also swap now. You can right click, swap areas. Before that, I think you have to like do control click on the corner. If you do control and then drag from the corner, you would have this kind of behavior to swap two areas. I use that a lot actually. If I want to swap two editors that are not related at all. For example, if I have here the I don't know, like an animation editor, and I want to swap it for this one that is on the other side of the workspace, you can control click. Super neat. So yes, credit where credit is due. Go check out the patch, give love, thanks. The patch is already closed, but Harley has been working so hard in this one for so long. Look at the amount of love. So cool. Okay, there was swap already in the menu. I forget. I just use the corner. Corners are also easier to use with the pen. Okay, more improvements in the user interface corner. This is a fix / improvement on usability, on making things more user friendly, such as restore last session. You remember? Do you know even this operator? It's in recover, restore last session. It used to just simply ask you, even when ask you like, hey, do you want to restore it? But even when there was no changes, like there was nothing to restore, and it will tell you, it will be asking. Now, not only checks if there's an actual change to be saved or unsaved, but also brings you the more complete dialog for saving. So allows you to close Blender, save, or save as. I believe I can fly. And last but not least, this one, it's a tiny change to the spreadsheet editor. So it is user interface because it's just visual. Can you tell the difference? The position or any vector, rotation or any vector that splits usually in 3, for example. Now if you go to the geometry nodes, you're gonna find that it only occupies one slot. It's like one column for 3 vectors. It's unified. you kind of have to know that this is X, Y, and Z. Is it good? Is it better? Erindale in the chat, it's so much better. Is it really better? Yeah, I guess it is better. Before it used to be split. Then the problem is, like, what happens if I want to sort? Like, you know, usually you can click on columns, not yet, but eventually. Click on a column to sort by that column. So what if I want to sort by set, position set? You know, it's not there. Much better. Yeah, people are actually happier with this change. We in the mockups we were actually thinking of having a mix. So having the position maybe on top, like splitting this cell in two, where in the top it will say position and at the bottom we'll have X, Y, and Z. Maybe. Always a compromise. Everybody from the UI team is here. Hey, look, Hans Goody, hello, Erindale, Falk David from Grease Pencil, and so many more awesome things. So cool, like hanging out with you guys. All right, that's all for the user interface. Actually, that was wasn't so much happening in that department, but since we were kind of talking about geometry nodes, let's continue with that. We don't have a ton of improvements compared to other weeks. Come on, this one, geometry nodes now, it's available, the modifier is available for volume objects. So now you don't only, like, it was a bit weird that you had to start from a mesh and then you could do volume stuff. So now if you have a volume, like an OpenVDB or just an empty volume, you can find in modifiers the geometry nodes modifier, and it's gonna have the same behavior. You go to the geometry nodes workspace, you select it, it becomes active, you have all the available data still here. I'm on a volume now, but you can actually add a mesh primitive to the volume and it will still work. Yes, but hey, exposing makes it easier to find. Another small improvement in performance by here the friend Hans Goody. It involves when you have many attribute nodes, there should be a small performance improvement due to lower overhead on every attribute node. So yeah, you wouldn't notice unless you have many nodes. But hey, have you seen the setups by Erindale? Okay, now we already covered that section. Today is gonna be a short one, but I started late, so maybe I'm gonna make up for it. So Grease Pencil, yes, let's start the switch into the Grease Pencil. The team never sleeps, continues working like it was completely different software. It's so cool. The team of Grease Pencil team added multi-frame support for move to layer. So now you can move multiple frames at once, or an animation for multiple frames to a layer. Does Hans even sleep? No, it doesn't sleep. We have a meeting here in the at a time where he lives is like, I don't know. In winter it was so dark. But then somehow we also have meetings, a UI meeting at 9 PM Amsterdam time, and it's still around. These people are crazy. Another improvement by the Grease Pencil team is to add the layer mask ordering buttons. So now you can sort the layer masks, mask layers, in the same way you do with the regular layers. So with the UI list, up and down buttons. And the last change is a tweak to the maximum value allowed for field precision. The value of 5, it was selected from a number of tests. It's not enough, so now it has been upped to 8. There you go. You have to look at the code to find out. It's okay. Minimums of 0.05 to 8. I wonder what happens if you just let it go. It's gonna be probably way too slow, and people will maybe take it as a mistake, as an error. That is all with the Grease Pencil team. With you today, we don't have a lot of changes, but hey, we are spoiled. Every week we have too much. User interface, Grease Pencil, geometry nodes. Okay, potpourri section. This is a very small improvement on the performance of the simple deform modifier. And this one I wanted to do a shout out for Jagannathan Ravi EC3s, hey, nice nickname, for making these improvements. Apparently it's a few FPS faster. Here it shows like it has exactly with the direction of the arrows. I think it's the other way around, from 295 to 285 and 341. So the more it's for the more cores apparently seems to be a bit faster. And the last but not least, Python for the add-on developers out there. Now you can make your add-on more user-friendly because you can tell your poll functions, so the ones that define if something is available or disabled or not. Now you can define a message, so it will look more pro. It will tell you like, okay, this is disabled because of X reason. So make use of it. Make your add-ons more user-friendly. And if you're making add-ons or a script related to assets, now there's some operations, some functions that have been added for asset, mark asset, and clear asset. I think after this commit it was changed to asset mark and asset clear, so don't look for this one, but yeah, super nice that the add-on stuff can make use of this. BPY. All right, I think I'm covered. I covered everything, so let's switch into the questions. Blender.community. We have, I'm not gonna spoil, but we have the new Blender community deployed somewhere in the space, outer space, in the cloud, for testing internally. There's still many areas missing, but that is a major milestone that Francesco CD has pulled off. So super happy that there is a working website somewhere in the internet. I am not gonna tell you because then the website is gonna go down. There's many things missing, so it's like the Cycles X is the Blender community X. That's how far they are. Okay, let's start with the question. Thank you, Damian Winichenko, for making this thread. I'm gonna press F. Did you know that if you press F you go full screen? Actually, not many people know that. Also, if you do Shift A, you can add a post in Blender community. Nobody knows that. So obscure. Okay. Hey Pablo, Marcelago asks, Cycles X is absolute. Cycles 10 is absolutely amazing. Are there any hopes of ACES making its way into it? That and HDR video encoding will absolutely blow me away. Well, I think every feature out there now has way more hopes and way more chances, many more chances of making it in. Any feature that you can name, light groups, light linking. I asked the developer, I asked Brecht on the live stream on Friday on the announcement of Cycles X, and he was like, well, this is unrelated. Like it can maybe be added before Cycles X, you know, in the current architecture. It's a completely isolated feature, so that's pretty neat. If you want to use like light groups or that kind of stuff, there are builds available here in GraphicAll that have that feature, and it's called Bone Studio, from the same guy that I showed before. It's on GraphicAll, free for download, of course. GPL. What else? T Medics ask, hi Pablo, thanks for the nice show. Thank you for watching it. Since it seems that some small UI improvements are being done for 3.0, I would say even more than smaller. Is there anything planned for sidebar design, sidebar tabs readability? I really hope so. This is yeah, this is on my top list. Every time I get to talk with the UI team, I try to like every time we talk, I just like try to mention it, like, hey, we should do this. Why do we keep adding new stuff and not fixing those? But it's not an easy task. If you have ever developed, sometimes it's faster to do completely different, or even more fun to do completely different things. sidebar, the minimum size, especially that change should come on. We can't release Blender 3 with this tiny little tabs that for people with many add-ons, they don't see the what are they about. And we have many versions of tabs already. We have these kind of tabs, and they don't move again with control scroll. Interesting. They used to. We have this kind of stuff with icons. We have this kind of tabs with just tabs, and then we have this kind of tabs, and they are all different. Why? Because it is an enum, these are categories, these are workspaces, many reasons, but for the user they are the same, so they should behave the same and have the same kind of theming options. Let's see, Krashanker 66. Hey Pablo, is there any updates on RenderMan for Blender from Pixar? Will it influence Cycles X development? No, nothing will influence Cycles X development. It's completely separate. RenderMan for Blender is being developed by Pixar, by people at Pixar. So it has nothing to do with the Blender Foundation engineers. So the last I know is when I did a live stream here in this channel where they were announcing it, and they said Q1, so first quarter of 2021, and we are is it 4 days away from closing that quarter, or are we already entering the other one? So month 1, 2, 3, I think we are. Yeah, they might be behind. There must be reasons, but let's hope it makes it as soon as possible. Okay. BlenderToday makes Mondays better. Okay, the other question. John, hey Pablo, I know the request for light linking has been brought up a lot. So much. And there were always, especially for me, like by me, every time I get to talk to developers, I'm like, hey. But yeah, now I understand that it's completely separate. I think it's much better to rewrite. Some people were saying in some, maybe just one comment that I read that saying that, hey, like Cycles X is like a waste. I'd rather have like linking and caustics and stuff before Cycles X. It's like, how can you not prefer a rewrite of the entire core system that makes it not only faster but more feature proof on top of, and then being able to add features? I personally prefer when people take the time to work on performance first and then add the features, like they are doing with the video sequence editor, which is getting a lot of performance improvements in 2.92 and 93, and then the features, the next features will come. Because if something is not fast to use or not responsive, then what's the point of the features? I personally prefer when something works fast first and then they add the features. Okay, sorry, the question itself. It's I know the request has been brought a lot. I'm just wondering if the new development of Cycles X makes it any more or less likely, way more likely to happen, way more. And also again, it's I asked this to Brecht even before the announcement of Cycles X, and he mentioned that yeah, it's a separate development. Can even if Cycles X itself takes long, that feature can be could be part of another release before Cycles X. But the main thing here is that once that is in place, once Cycles X it replaces Cycles, then other features are gonna come in much faster pace. They're easier to implement, more hardware and agnostic as well. So yeah, Zorro Weaver says, Pablo, I noticed the audio mixer and keyboard on your desk. Do you have an interest in music or audio? Yes, I do. I love music, and I have a little MIDI here, a microKORG, and a drum brute from Asturia for making bass and stuff. And the mixer, no, the mixer is just for well, I used to have some Korg Folkas, and like 4 or 5 of them, and then I will plug them together and make some music. I really enjoy it. Thank you for the question. Not related to Blender, but sometimes it's fun to talk about that stuff. Speaking of audio, Blender has a very limited audio system. Yes. I was wondering if anyone has even thought of improving the audio system in Blender in the last few years. And if there were any devs working on it. I feel like the audio rendering is really left behind part of Blender. Blender is a 3D software, but it's also a 2D software, a texture painting software. Why not an audio software? I think audio, even though Blender texture paint and 2D and animation, that is all still graphics, where audio is a completely different monster, especially in multi-platform systems. I think Blender should, I mean, it would be cool if we could support like VST or something, but I think Blender should allow you to better have like dialogues visualization for animators. That would be pretty cool. I don't know, in the graph editor backdrop, or dope sheet or something like that. And then allow you to do very basic mixing, but just getting entirely in audio, that is unless there is someone very passionate about it, but yeah, can be opening a can of worms, literal worms bags. A simple audio equalizer, that would be cool. With 3.0 approaching, as you mentioned, this is timed for breaking changes. Since there is no audio editor yet, there used to be in the 2.4 era or 2.3 even, there was an editor inside of Blender dedicated to audio. Audacity is open source, yeah, but Audacity has ton of years of support and this development, and it's one of the most popular audio editing open source softwares. The integration though, I think Tint Wotin, the Peter Fogg, had a add-on. I don't know where to look for it now. I think maybe on YouTube, but you can look for Audacity Video Sequence Editor. There was I saw an add-on. I hope it's still around, but yeah. Next question by Mille Porte. Curve and node preview. 2 short questions. 1. Annoying issue. When working with curve in Blender is the difference between 2D and 3D curve. When using a 3D curve, the profile do not correctly follow the curve, especially in the corners, while it's doing perfectly if the curve is 2D. And this issue causes problems when molding and other stuff. Like that ending. You can see the workaround is too much tedious. The difference between 2 kinds of curves seems to have no benefit, so will this distinction be removed and the management unified? Will ever be implemented? That's another question. So will this distinction be removed and the management unified? To be honest, I never encounter this like exact difference. I usually, for 2D curves, I usually use 3D curves, but just make them 2D. But that's a workaround. The curve system in general, I think it's due for a lot of improvements. The visualization, like you should be able to see at a glance if a curve is 2D or 3D. Like, why not? And if they get unified, how would it work? Would it be just a 3D curve with a constraint in one of the axes? I'm not sure, to be honest. There is curve support coming for the geometry nodes though. I don't know if that's related, maybe not, but yeah. Sounds like it could be a bug report. Maybe you can disguise it as a bug report. I shouldn't be saying that though. Okay, next question. Will we ever be implemented a node preview feature in Cycles? This allows to see what every node thus without switching on every single node to call a local preview. Well, I don't know about Cycles X itself, or if it's a node editor thing, but you will have to cache all those changes, right? If you want to have a preview for every node. I don't know. And also nodes have different kind of previews. Like some shader nodes or value nodes, attribute nodes, they look different. So how would that work? How would that preview work? Do you have a mockups or something like that? Damian Winichenko asks, "Hi Pablo, quick question. What is the status of the show attributes in the viewport feature? Any chance to see it being implemented in the 3.0 release? Thanks for asking 3.0 and not 293. 293 is closed for new features and has already way too many features related to attributes. It's a pity that we didn't manage to do the show attributes in the viewport. I think it's partially because of my fault. I didn't have a time or motivation to do the mockups for that attributes. We talked about it a few times in the team, in the team and the presentations, the stand-ups. But there are many ways to preview attributes. You know, how do you show them? You show an index, an integer. You can show them with a color, with a number, with a gradient, a color ramp. Do you see it normalized? How? You know, when you have a range that is huge, you may want to normalize it to see 0 to 1, for example. So yeah, they it would be great to have them. It takes some work. Would appreciate examples. How do others, does it even exist in other softwares? How do they deal with the different kind of visualizations? Because what I have in mind, it's mainly just an option in the as an overlay, you know, like an overlay for or maybe a new kind of type, a view, new shading. Nah, an overlay for attribute, and then you have to pick one attribute. We have the concept of an active attribute in the new ideas that we were thinking for the attribute edit and attribute paint. So the same way you can now paint vertices, for example, like vertex paint. What you're doing here in a way is attribute painting. You're just painting the color attribute on a vertex. And well, sculpt, I mean, if we treat it this way, sculpt is painting position attributes on a mesh, on vertices, right? So in the end, it's all kind of painting. So there have been meetings actually at the studio in the last couple of weeks related to these new modes. So expect some information publicly available before 3.0. Okay, I think I'm a bit... It's 6 o'clock. Let's do 5 more questions. If there are 5 more questions, I am assuming that, oh yeah, there's so many questions. People are so engaged with the show. Okay, now yeah, there are some. Okay, first one by Cobras Corp. I scroll down to the bottom because as you can see, these ones were asked first 44 minutes ago. So it's a big milestone. Releases like 2.8 will no longer be part of Blender development, but more like accumulation of smaller ones. I would say Blender 4.0 has a good chance of being a larger release. However, the jump from 2.8 to from 2.7 to 2.8, like there were so many things to fix that making that jump, it's not that it was easy, but like you can only do it maybe once every decade or so. I think Blender 2.8 now, even though it could be so much better in many areas. Well, now I'm in the rendering workspace, but there are videos online on how to make this better. Right now, the rendering workspace shows you images that are not relating to rendering. Why? Well, because we don't have a view render mode or editor yet. Would be cool to have that. I don't know. There is no Control C and Control V. There is no copy paste in Blender. You can copy paste objects, but if you want to copy an attribute, you have to enable an add-on. An add-on for such a basic operation. If you want to preview cycles, you have to enable an add-on, the Node Wrangler. Texture Paint, it's really far from great. Texture Node Editor, it's a joke. Many areas. I think there is lots of room for improvement, but the jump that we did from 2.7 to 2.8, it can only be done when there is many more to tackle, many more changes, UI at least wise to tackle. You guys used to do cycle demo reels every year. Why did you guys stop? Basically because it was work to get them organized, to organize them, find artwork. Usually when you do a call for artwork for people to submit, you don't get the best of the best of the best unless other people submit it, because many artists that are great, they are not, they're too humble. They're not like saying, hey, here it is, my work. So sometimes we gave it to the community to make. I think Mike Pan did one. I think Suka Masta also did one. So if someone in the community wants to collect artwork, cycles artwork, for example, and come up with an idea, please do it. There are videos in the Blender Foundation, well, this channel that you're watching right now. There are videos here, Cycles Demo Reel 2016 and 15, for example. Those, they were done by the community, but we published them here. So if you guys want to do it and we publish it here in the channel and mention you, of course, give you credit, that would be awesome. It's a community effort. Number 4, question number 4, Slug Nugget. Hey Pablo, what is the status of the settlers? They are settled. I haven't heard about it in a while. Well, they are settled. The Settlers project, for those that don't know, if you go to cloud.blender.org/settlers, you're gonna find these little guys that were done as part of the Open Up initiative during the first wave of COVID-19. This was in March last year, when everybody was working from home. The studio wanted to give a gift to the community, the Blender studio, so they gave characters and environments and animations and files to everybody for free on Blender Cloud. But you don't even need to be logged in. You can just download it for free and use it for whatever you want for your test, animation test. So they are settled. Now the team is working full-time on Sprite Fright. Bonus question: Will every whole number release in the future be a big update? That is really hard to predict. You know, 2 years ago we wouldn't even think there was so many updates in Blender now. People from the industry developing for Blender, making changes in Blender, those we wouldn't expect. So we don't know. Maybe Blender 3.0 becomes so popular, I don't know, for some reason, that more studios are working on it, and then they hire developers and they make amazing new ways for Blender to make art that will fit in 4.0. I would say like big developments such as VR, better VR support, or like the Mixer add-on by Ubisoft, for example, to have multiple people working in the same blend, they would eventually come and make a big splash. I don't know if they should fit in a big whole number release, but yeah. The next question, number 3. Hello Pablo, is there a limitation on how long the clip length can be when trying to use the Grease Pencil tracing feature? I don't believe I can get Grease Pencil to trace more than 3 or 4 seconds. worth of video even after adjusting some properties. I don't know about the limitation though. Report it as a bug. If you have a 5-second video that you cannot get to work, report it as a bug, because maybe it runs on other hardware. Maybe it's a hardware limitation, or maybe it's software and it's nowhere documented, and it should be documented in the docs, in the manual, as you mentioned. Question number 2. Yes. Hey Pablo, I was thinking when particle nodes are coming, and do my crappy computer can handle cycles X? I do not know what your crappy computer is, but if your crappy computer can handle cycles today, like the cycles in Blender 2.92, it's gonna handle cycles X just fine. There's no new requirements in terms of hardware. And the last question by Andre Kling. Hello Pablo, is there any news regarding the VR implementation in Blender? Would be cool if you could add an artist shoutout section on this show. Perhaps the name of a few artists that you saw using Blender in the last week or so. That would be actually, yeah, that could be... I don't want to extend these shows too much. It's already over an hour by just answering questions. I will have to maybe shorten the questions and then do a shout out. What I was thinking, maybe I could use as the video some artwork by one artist, and then each week promote at least one artist, and that doesn't take much time. But yeah, I should do it. Actually, I manage the BlenderToday account on Twitter, and I retweet a lot. It's a retweet account pretty much. I've been retweeting, for example, this Cycles X from 1 minute 30 to 26 seconds. Yeah, this day has been a lot of Cycles X. Oh, have you? Well, yeah, you've probably seen it. I think everybody has seen it. This Ian Ewert masterpiece. If you haven't, go see it. All right, we want 2 hours of Pablo. Well, if you want 2 hours of Pablo, I can give you another hour today, but in Spanish, because I do this show in Spanish in the Blender Hoy. It's not official. It's my own hangout place with people in Espanol, but you know, just to not live out of the loop to people, so many people. Okay, I think we are in good place to say goodbye, to get ready for another week of development. Maybe not so much. I can't promise much development. I think next week is gonna be as quiet, by assuming, because this week, as mentioned, it's the bug fixing week, where developers focus on making Blender more stable and not so much on adding new features to Blender 3.0 alpha. So go have fun, get Blender X, Blender Cycles X. You know where to get it, right? It's in the download page on Blender.org. Go to experimental. Then these are the alpha and betas, but these are like the main branches of development. Cycles is not there yet. It's in experimental branches. You click down here and then go to the bottom. It should be one of the last ones to be added. Cycles X. There you go. So have fun, enjoy, share, use hashtag CyclesX or so, and on Twitter or whatever social media you use. It's time to get epic in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, that was loud. I used to give a warning to people with headphones, like, hey, watch out guys, I know I'm gonna play the music. I don't anymore, sorry about that. But let's meet again next week. Same place, same time. Even if there's no news, no development news, at least we can just hang out here. Maybe have a better setup for Cycles X, have fun. You name it. It's been a pleasure. Hope you had fun. I did. See you next week, same place, same time, for another episode of BlenderToday Live.